So, Pokemon X and Y aren't yet out in the American eShop, despite the fact that they are out where I live. So, it's going to be about 40 minutes until they do come out. How can I pass the time? I know. I could play some Objection! So here we have the Dual Destinies demo. I'm not sure if this is available in Australia yet, but anyway. And I might just play this, even though I've already watched the video footage of it on YouTube a few times. I actually played the full demo in Japanese before, and I got 30 uses of this. Wow, 30 uses of pure awesomeness. That's a pretty good deal for something completely free. Now, my policy with Ace Attorney games is I don't particularly like commentated playthroughs of them. It just feels like, in a game like Ace Attorney, you really need to read the text. You need to be able to know exactly what's going on, and you can't miss anything, because something that seems completely random might end up being totally vital to the case, and if you miss that, well, you're completely screwed. So, I generally don't think the games lend themselves very well to Let's Plays or commentary. So, yeah, I'm going to probably be silent through a lot of this, but I might just give some brief notes on stuff I noticed from the Japanese version of the demo, and just a few brief things about, because, hey, in case you guys don't know, I worked as one of the translators on the translation patch of Ace Attorney Investigations 2. You can go download that at Court Records if you want. And in doing so, it was an amazing project. I really enjoyed it, actually. Currently, the localizers are going through cases 3, 4, and 5, but, trust me, it's amazing, and if you have your reservations, in my opinion, it's much, much better than Ace Attorney Investigations 1, so I'd highly recommend checking it out, especially before Dual Destinies. The demo covers the first 2 cases, and the localization job on them is just fantastic, so go ahead, check it out. But enough about that game, let's go on to this one. I'm mostly interested in how this looks in 3D, so, wow, that gavel sounded pretty cool with headphones. Oh, the cutscene, okay. I might stay mostly silent throughout this. I will confirm this is in 3D, though.
These are dark times, where the law has been reduced to rubble, and it's up to us to restore it to its former glory.
I'm pretty sure that's Phoenix speaking there.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It looks like your target finally decided to make a move. Don't you worry. I've got a trusty new partner on board. She's been with us for half a year, though I can hardly believe it. Anyway, her power will be our greatest weapon.
Oh, just realized this is Athena's theme music, which is kind of remixed into her Objection theme, which is amazing, by the way.
Yeah, it's for this very reason I returned. Time to bring it to an end.
And finally, Phoenix gets a dramatic coat put-on scene, because Edgeworth got one in Ace Attorney Investigations 2, which didn't get localized, so you probably haven't seen it. Yeah, just be thankful Capcom is at least giving us this game. Seriously, guys, stop bitching about the digital-only release. At least we're getting it at all. Is Apollo perceiving something there? Maybe. A whole lot of cryptic hints in this. But anyway, here we are with Episode 1, Turnabout Countdown. Pretty much directly translated from its Japanese name. And like most opening cases in the series, this is a reverse whodunit. You see who the killer is right at the beginning. Or in this case, the culprit, since we have a bombing rather than a murder here. Well, we all know how well that's going to turn out for you. Pro tip, in an Ace Attorney game, if you're a murderer and you blame the crime on someone else, yeah, you are going to get yourself caught. And this is my first time seeing everything in 3D. Okay, the difference between the 3D footage on my DS itself and the 2D footage I am seeing on my computer display is just staggering, trust me. Seriously, there's like no comparison. You really have to play this in 3D. Go ahead, download the demo. Just watching it here does not do it justice. Seriously. And, no pun intended with that justice there, but, speaking of which, I guess I should take this time to just discuss, because I couldn't in the cutscene itself, a few details about that cutscene. Yes, Phoenix Wright is still voiced by Sam Riegel, I think that's how he pronounced his name, who voiced him in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. I think it's actually a pretty cool voice of Phoenix. I always thought, I was really worried about what kind of voice he'd get in Marvel vs. Capcom, and once I heard it, I was like, actually, that is pretty perfect. You might know Sam Riegel for also doing Stahl and Donnell in Fire Emblem Awakening, and he was pretty awesome there too. Then, of course, his Phoenix voice is much closer to his Stahl voice, obviously, because Donnell has a southern accent. If he was doing his Donnell voice, he'd be voicing one of Lauder's obscure relatives. But anyway. And as for the other voices we heard there, we only heard Athena's, I believe. Athena, we're not entirely sure who her voice actress is, but most people say it's Wendy Lee, I think. Some people think it's that, but most people say she sounds pretty good. And then we have, we didn't actually hear Apollo speak in that cutscene, but apparently he's going to be voiced by Orion Akaba, who I believe is Kellum in Fire Emblem Awakening. I think he's someone else too, but I can't remember. He is also Jonathan in Shin Megami Tensei 4, so he's been doing quite a lot of 3DS work lately. I've listened to a few clips of him, and I think he'll be a pretty good fit for Apollo, but we haven't actually heard his voice yet. So anyway, District Court, Defendant Lobby number 5, let's go. The actual text box is kind of see-through and looks like it's sort of in front of everything, and you get a real sense of perspective with this 3D. I'm really liking it. Oh yes, once again, Phoenix always has to feel like a newbie at the start. It's kind of a running thing for the series, you know, because in the first case, you got to accommodate for those players new to the series. I think the most ridiculous one was the start of the second game, where they had to make him get amnesia. Thankfully, they haven't resorted to anything like that ever since. Since then, they've either had the first case be with a completely new lawyer, or in this case, Phoenix has not been practicing law for about 7 years. So, I guess it makes sense in this case. And here we have our first... Oh, well, we saw her in the opening cutscene. We have... She'll get introduced soon. Okay, the character portraits still look 2D-ish, so they're not really fully 3D models in a way. But I guess they're mimicking the style of the older games with the sprites. Seriously, I've played so much Investigations, I'm used to the sideways sprites rather than front sprites. technically the Write Anything Talent Agency, I believe. Is it still called that, or has he finally changed it back to a law office? Yeah, if you want to know all about that, go play Apollo Justice. One of the more divisive games in the series. This one seems to be a kind of a return to form, but interestingly, the character who came out of this game for the better, most people say is actually not Phoenix, but ironically Apollo. In case you don't know, Athena Sykes is completely new. She has never appeared in the series before. Oh, you do kind of get to see her hand poking out the screen a little bit there. But anyway, she's kind of like your, not so much typical, sort of hot-blooded assistant in a way. And apparently she's the same age as Pearl, so, that's interesting. Now, I just noticed a speech bubble button on the bottom screen. I wonder what happens if you press it. Oh, hey, look, there's a dialogue recap. Okay, yeah, a lot of people said that the series desperately needed something like this. Fire Emblem has had this for quite a while, I believe since Path of Radiance, but in a game where the text is, like, really important, like, I mean, this game is basically all text, part of the reason why translating, yeah, you try translating an entire Ace Attorney game, it's a lot of work. I'm very, very glad I found a group of talented fellow translators to accommodate me into their team, because seriously, just not possible to do it by yourself, really. Once again, it's actually quite difficult doing translation for things like this, because you've got to make sure the text syncs up to the characters' animations as well. And also the sound effects that occur during the dialogue also have to sync up to the text. And naturally, you also have to insert internet meme references in as well. Then again, the series does have a habit of doing that, and it is, in a way, they managed to make it really awesome. I know that people kind of really got angry at the internet meme references that were inserted into the Fire Emblem 12 fan translation, but in Ace Attorney, they totally fit. The official localizations have been doing it for ages, and again, they kind of do still fit. I should mention here that Thena is obviously a localization of a particular suffix used to refer to Athena in the Japanese version. There are a lot of characters with tics like that in Japanese, and in general the localizers do a really great job of adapting them. So in this case, yeah, Thena's a pretty good translation for what she would have done. Like, I mean, there are a lot of... to give you an example, Kei calls Gumshoe Noko-chan in Japanese, which is a shortening of his name, and then chan being a, you know, sort of affectionate suffix. They localize that as Gummy, which not only makes sense and is pretty cool, but the fandom had been calling him Gummy for a very long time, so finally the nickname was official. So again, this game has some of the best localizers ever, like, really. Juniper Woods, her Japanese name obviously refers to forest, so, yeah, her name's obviously a pun on woodland and foresty stuff, as you can tell by her dress. Apparently, her design is based on Mori girl fashion. Mori means forest in Japanese. A particular style of Japanese fashion that I surprisingly don't know much about, so I'm going to need to go and research on that. Oh yeah, because someone looking like this would totally bomb a courtroom. The ridiculousness of Ace Attorney's legal system. Kind of a reversal of the, it goes back to the first case of the first game, where Phoenix was defending one of his childhood friends. Now Athena's helping Phoenix defend one of her childhood friends. And Junie, yeah, again, naming convention and adaptation. Well, he always does. Oh, the music cue really fit there. So yeah, we have a familiar face here, but with certainly not familiar attire, and that coat actually does stick out a little bit in 3D, so that's pretty cool. Protagonist of the fourth game in the series, and a very divisive character. But I've heard, now I haven't actually spoiled myself on very much about the game, except the identity of the final case's villain. That's, yeah, I really am a massive hypocrite if I say that, but anyway, I'm not going to say much, but from what I've heard, Apollo actually gets a lot of development in this game, and some people say that he finally became a fully fledged character. But apparently he's like this because he's injured. It's always a thing in games... In games in general, for some reason, being injured always means you get a cool outfit. I don't know why that happens, it's just... And I'm fine is pretty much his catchphrase. Unfortunately, applied a little ironically here. Pretty good localization on this line here, too. Orange text. Having to insert the tags, orange and then white at the end of it. I had to do a lot of that in my, fan translation work, but anyway. Yeah, the Ace Attorney games feature a lot of emphasizations in orange text, which... Yeah, you're gonna need to make them match up, and often when the Japanese translation is really short, but the English translation is really long, things get weird and you have to localize things. But in this case, one of the victims, that was probably just one word in Japanese, but, I'm surprised he got off with just these injuries, really. Maybe Apollo's inherited some of Phoenix's, you know, native steelness. Phoenix Wright, you know, people were saying, Phoenix Wright, oh, he's totally not suited to being in a fighting game. Well, you gotta remember that this is the character who fell off a burning bridge and got a cold. Hit by a car, flung into a telephone pole, and apparently all it did to him was a sprained ankle. Yeah. Totally not suited for a fighting game at all, that. He seems to be pretty much immune to just about anything. Relax, this is the first case. It's gonna be pretty easy. Okay, I guess I should probably mention this right here. In the Japanese version, yeah, she said something kind of interesting here. In the Japanese version, she, instead of this, which I believe is German, I'm sorry, I'm not really that good with German. I was forced to take a class in high school that I was apparently pretty good at, but again, I only did it for like a third of a year. But, I believe that's German. In the Japanese version, she said, "Let's do this," in English and all capitals. They kind of have to change, references to English or things like that to other things. It tends to be European countries more often than not. I believe Manfred von Karma was actually supposed to be from America in the Japanese version, and they changed that to Germany, which some people think works better. By the way, interestingly enough, his surname was actually Karma in Japanese as well, just written with kanji that gave it a certain, even more terrifying double meaning. But anyway. Okay, I guess it's time. Okay, in the words of Japanese Athena, let's do this! You know, something I should mention here about the times listed on these things here. This was interesting when translating Investigations too. In the Japanese version, whenever an event occurs on the same day as one of these other typewriter time segments, it actually just says the same day, rather than the actual date. The English versions give the date every single time, and changing that got pretty annoying. Very, very annoying. Especially when, there was one case where, that takes place over almost an entire day, but, it's several different times, and all these times going back to the same day, and I'm like, what day is it? I have to keep looking back onto the earlier scripts to go, oh, wait, it's that day. And then I have to... Yeah, it's annoying. Okay, that looks pretty awesome. Seriously. Oh, wow. And you know what? Gavel in 3D looks amazing. I just have to say that. Again, when this game comes out, please buy it. Watching this video will not do it justice. The 3D looks pretty awesome, actually. Yeah. 3D Judge. Yeah, we've got our same old Judge, which, I should mention renders turnabout substitution completely and utterly non-canon, but then again, it was non-canon anyway. That's a fan game, by the way, and I probably just seriously spoiled it. It's a pretty good fan game. I'd recommend checking it out. Okay, yeah, the sprites look a little more 3D-ish here. Pain? Is this the Pain we all know and, well, laugh at? Actually, no. This music is awesome, by the way. Then again, seriously, all Ace Attorney music is awesome. And it's certainly good for the series to be back, to getting localized. And I just noticed that Phoenix's hair, the individual sort of ridges on his hair are all sort of sticky outy slightly. It looks awesome, seriously. Quite frankly, neither did the creator of the series. And apparently he actually expressed slight disappointment that they brought Phoenix back, because, again, complicated history of the series, Phoenix's saga was meant to end with the third game, and he wasn't supposed to appear at all. Apollo Justice was supposed to not feature any characters from earlier games in the series, but the higher-ups got angry, or some people got angry, and said, oh, we want the other characters back. So they had to add Phoenix, and as a rebellion against that, the creator decided to make him a hobo with no friends, basically. So, yeah, that's part of the reason. People may criticize Apollo Justice, but part of the reason was it had a weird development, and its plot had a lot of changes at the last minute to sort of bring Phoenix into it, and as a result, well, if you've played that game, you'll know. I don't want to spoil anything. Yes, Phoenix metaphors, which actually aren't in the Japanese version, since Phoenix's Japanese name actually refers to a dragon rather than a phoenix. Which, yeah, in the English version, Furio Tigre, I'm just trying to pronounce his name. I'll just call him the Tiger. His shirt had a particular metaphor on it that doesn't really translate to the English version, but to compensate, they do get a lot of these rising from the ashes metaphors, which really makes sense. Then again, Phoenix's surname was basically translated pretty much perfectly, or adapted perfectly, in that his Japanese surname is Naruhodo, which means I see, or oh, I see, which is similar to the fact that his English surname is like right, so yeah. And Confident Phoenix. And Not So Confident Phoenix. Extremely Confident Athena. And I'm just looking at the random people in the crowd. Nah, there's no, like... I was half expecting there to be, like, a random cameo in there. There isn't. You know, I actually had to look this up, because not being American, I had no idea who Rip Van Winkle was. I'd heard about him a lot, but yeah. Basically, it's a story about a man who... Basically, he goes up into the mountains, meets some weird people, falls asleep, wakes up, comes back to his hometown, and realizes that everything's different and no one seems to recognize him. He meets someone who looks really similar to him and has the same name, and turns out to be his son. So it turns out that he actually slept for, I don't know if it's about 20... He slept for a long time and is now in the future, basically. So, yeah, there's a Japanese legend that's actually very similar, and I believe this line referred to a Japanese legend in the original version, so I can understand why they change it. But anyway, I believe what Payne is trying to imply is that Phoenix, like Rip Van Winkle, has been out of action for a long time, he's missed a lot, and now that he's come back, he's kind of really sort of, yeah, out of touch with everything, like someone who's, yeah, stuck in the, someone from the past stuck in the future, who has no idea what's going on. Anyway. Oh, yes, this. Yeah, that's pretty much a direct line from the Japanese version. So the general gist of this entire conversation is pretty much the same. Oh, they managed to recreate the sort of sweating Phoenix sprite so well. Fourth wall break, go! This most likely will not be in the final game. The interesting thing is, I believe the final version of this case, from what I've heard, is actually quite different from the demo version. So basically everything you see here, don't count on things going the same way in the final version. Let's just say that the demo of Ace Attorney Investigations 1, very different from the final Case 1. The demo of Ace Attorney Investigations 2 Case 1, extremely different from the final Case 1. Seriously, extremely different. In fact, it almost shocked me playing the final case, the real Case 1 of Ace Attorney Investigations 2 after I played the demo, because, well, let's just say the demo left out a few crucial details that led up to a big plot twist that I really didn't see coming. This is in the final version of the case. By the way, Case 1 of Investigations 2 is probably my favourite Case 1 in the entire series. Go play it now, it is awesome. You know, I don't think they actually bring this up yet, unless you look at his profile on the court record, but anyway, this is in fact Gaspin Payne, Winston Payne's brother. And I actually really like what they did there, because I kept thinking how they're going to localize that first name, because it's got to be another Payne pun, but hey, they got one I didn't think of. Gaspin Payne, that actually is pretty good localization. His Japanese name is actually just the first few syllables of his brother's first name rearranged, but speaking of the Payne brothers, the surname, kind of funny. In Japanese, their surname is a Japanese name in kanji, but it's pronounced as Auchi. Uchi, but it sounds like ouch, so that's why they changed the pun to this in the English version. Although apparently the original Winston Payne was named after one of the game creators' dentist, which is actually kind of funny. It's actually even funnier when you know that the words for dentist and loser are in fact homophones in Japanese. So, yeah. And we have an image that had to be edited, of course, in the English version, that guilty thing on it, because that was a kanji, one kanji in Japanese, I believe, so, yeah, having to change that to a whole word must have been tricky. And bombing incident added to the court record. I'm not going to show the bottom screen, so you might have to go back and pause the video if you want to read that. Or I'll read this anyway. The center of the blast was by the defense's bench. Surprisingly, Apollo survived that. Wow. Fortunately, the courtroom was cleared quickly, so there were no deaths. Who's willing to bet that's going to be a contradiction later? And now... Okay, I hope the thing didn't cut out. My computer just went into sleep mode briefly. But okay, basically here, this is the first time we've actually had access to the court record button. Normally you have access to this from the very start of the game.
So that's interesting.
And we can finally look at the Attorney's Badge, which we can't examine in 3D view. Maybe in the final version, I don't know. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention the Stuffed Animal Bomb. Stuffed Animal Bomb, I'll just read this out. The time bomb that destroyed the courtroom. It was hidden inside a stuffed animal when it was detonated. That's pretty simple. Also, we have profiles. Athena Sykes, a rookie lawyer who has just joined our agency. She has a very special ability. No more details given. We'll find out about that later. Oh, she's 18, apparently. That's 1 year older than Maya was when she first debuted. Anyway, Juniper Woods, also 18. Our client in this case, a kind-hearted girl who loves nature. She apparently lives in a forest. I didn't know that. I did not know that. That's gonna be interesting. Maybe we'll find out more about that in the final game. Apollo Justice, age 23. I think he was 22 in his first game, so this is only a year after. A young lawyer at my agency. He was injured in the courtroom bombing. Gasp and Pain. Yeah, this is the only way you can actually tell his first name if you look at this. Age 55. The prosecuting attorney. The younger brother of another prosecutor I know. This one lacks presence to... the Pains are always the butt of the jokes in the series. Especially in investigations when, despite Edgeworth being a fellow prosecutor, he has no idea who Pain even is. So they seriously believe that someone like that would actually bomb a courtroom? Oh yes, decisive evidence. Whenever the prosecution says they have decisive evidence, it usually looks decisive but ends up being not so much. Whenever Phoenix says he has decisive evidence, on the other hand, well, you usually have to find it yourself, and it's usually extremely difficult. But once you do, it generally seals the whole case. Looks kind of like the end of a paintbrush. You know what, Okay, so looking at the thing, the stuffed animal is in fact carrying a paintbrush, but it also has a similar looking tail, so I guess we can believe this. Phony Fanty. Now, I actually forgot what the pun was in the Japanese version, but anyway, props to the localizers for that, because it's actually pretty cool. Oh, don't say that, never say that. Uh-oh. I really like this remix of the suspense theme, actually, because the suspense theme has gone, yeah, 6 games. 6 games without ever being remixed. Still at that low, almost 8-bit sounding theme. But it sounds really nice here. They've updated it, and it's still the same theme, but it's finally not that, you know, old low-quality one. The gallery chatter sounds amazing on headphones, just putting that out there. A piece of the stuffed animal that the bomb was inserted into. The defendant's fingerprints were found on it. You know those heh-heh-hehs? There's actually a lot of onomatopoeia for laughing in Japanese, so translating those laughs is actually kind of difficult just from a standpoint of... Investigations 2 had a lot of different characters with different laughs, some very, very weird, so that was kind of hard to translate. Oh, really? You might also notice that Athena's necklace actually changes colour according to her mood, and foreshadows something we'll be seeing later. You know, he was gonna show this fingerprinted tail anyway. Just realized you can actually see those lights glowing in the behind the judge, which is kind of cool. And witness time. And if you've watched the opening cutscene, you can tell that this guy did it. Naturally for first cases. The real thing is going to be proving it. Chances are this guy's going to be a better liar than Frank saw it, though. Ted Ternate. I actually really like that pun. The pun in his Japanese name, though, was actually kind of different. Yeah, his Japanese name is a pun on Mashingo, or machine language, based on something that you'll be seeing in a moment. We kind of have to take the judge's word for it, because there's no actual voice acting in court scenes. So basically, he speaks via machine, i.e. machine language, what his Japanese name was a pun on. You know, given all the witnesses we've seen in earlier games, I go so far as to say this guy's one of the least eccentric, really. I mean, you should have... But the standards for weirdness must be very, very strange in this series. Oh, that's totally not suspicious at all. Yeah, the moment when he set off the explosion. That looks pretty cool. Love the cross-examination theme in this game. I just love it. It's just so awesome. Previously, Investigations 2 had my favourite cross-examination themes, but I actually like a lot of things about Investigations 2, but then again, I did translate that game, so it makes sense that I'd feel an attachment to it. By the way, the bomb's name is exactly the same as in the Japanese version. The real issue is, would she have the motive to activate it? I think we have a bit more credibility to our claims than that. Oh, and obligatory, do you want a tutorial or not? Now, just about every single run of this demo I have seen on YouTube says no to the refresher course. I would say yes just to show it off, but this video is running very long as it is. I.e., you suck if you view the tutorials. I believe he would say this line after the tutorial is finished anyway, so this is where the branching scripts meet up. Yes, translating an Ace Attorney game really, yeah, lets me get a feel for how the scripts actually work. In fact, I probably could talk about it with this cross-examination, but anyway. Now, most of the playthroughs on YouTube I've seen don't do this.
Hold it!
Phoenix obviously has new Hold It and Objection voice clips for his new voice. He was originally all the characters are voiced by just people who worked on the game, but they've now got professional voice actors since they've got full cutscenes now. Oh, okay. So, he certainly didn't take a live bomb into the courtroom and say, "Oh, I totally disarmed this," and then blew it up and laughed maniacally.
Hold it!
The speed bubbles look pretty cool in 3D, by the way. Oh, okay, yeah, he was listing out random numbers in Japanese. I guess this is why. I haven't seen this conversation before. Oh, and we go to the next statement. Just notice there's a little tiny indicator just above the text box that shows which statement you're on out of the whole testimony. That's actually pretty cool. I don't think any previous games had that. That's quite nice, actually. So I guess I should talk about how the cross-examinations work in the script files. I just kind of wanted to get this out there. So basically how it works is, you have the initial testimony that the witness says. That was earlier on. Now, that's actually a separate script to the cross-examination itself. They're actually separate parts of the script. So you have the same bits being reiterated twice, because the second part is for the actual playable part of the testimony. Now, you have the whole testimony, and in this bit where the full cross-examinable part of the testimony is stored, you have any additional statements that are appended to the testimony. We won't have any of those here. After that, in the script, comes the conversation you get if you advance to the end of the testimony without, like, objecting to anything or anything like that. You just advance to the end, and you get a brief conversation with your assistant. You have that. After that come the press dialogues for each individual statement, in order. After that come the failure dialogues. Now, I believe this game only has one failure dialogue sequence, just the judge giving you a penalty. In Ace Attorney Investigations, every single witness has 3 unique failure conversations for them. Some of them are actually pretty hilarious, so if you're playing the fan translation, I'd actually recommend experimenting around if you've got high enough health to see some of them. Anyway, after that comes the successful objection dialogue, and that usually leads on to the end of the script and on to the start of the next one. So that's how cross-examinations are stored in the game script. I guess that helps for people who write fan cases. Probably already know this, but I guess that helps if you're trying to write one. I haven't pressed this one yet, have I?
Hold it!
Says Captain Obvious. Oh, yeah, of course, irony here, because we know from the very start that he's the one who did it. And this press dialogue I have seen before.
Hold it!
And that goggle zoom animation looks pretty cool in 3D, I must say. Yeah, like we needed to hear that. Yeah, now naturally, this being the very first cross-examination of the game, you have a very blatant hint as to which statement is wrong, and it's this one. Yeah, the game flat out points it out to you. Again, this is only the very start of the game, and it's the demo. You usually get this for, generally the first contradiction is completely obvious, but in case it wasn't obvious, Phoenix is going to spell it out for you right now. This screen looks pretty cool in 3D, actually. They even point out to you which evidence you need to present, so if you get this wrong, really, you fail. Seriously. So is that the conversation that happens if you advance to the end? So if I go to the end here... Oh, right, okay, this is the end conversation, okay. Alright, that one. So it transitions straight into the end conversation if you press the last statement. Okay, that makes sense. So we all know what's the faulty statement here.
Objection!
I believe the Japanese term here is hakkiri, which is something that shows up a lot in the Japanese scripts. Seriously. And get ready for awesome music soon. Phoenix's new objection theme kind of borrows from the Trials and Tribulations one, which kind of makes sense because that was the last game where he was the main protagonist. Well, it was pretty much spelled out for you. Uh-oh. Yeah, this is one of those contradictions that they're like, oh, wait a minute, I just remembered wrong, it's easily explainable. Yeah, it's pretty much a serious convention. We're going to need to find a contradiction more substantial than that to fully nail this guy. Unfortunately, we won't have a chance to, because it's time for the defendant to take the stand. Usually the defendant testifies first. Something I feel might be different in the final game, but anyway. I'm very sure that Francisca never reviewed that. So apparently this is Athena's special power mentioned in the court record. Well, you can kind of tell that by her expressions and the fact that, well, she couldn't possibly have done this. By the way, the characters in Ace Attorney do in fact have feet, according to those zoom-ins. I should mention that Athena's cough... not Athena, sorry, Juniper Woods. Woods' coughing is completely unchanged from the Japanese version, I'm pretty sure. Clearly, that is a deranged terrorist we are dealing with. Exactly. And so, just like the Investigations 2 tutorial showed off logic chess, this tutorial is going to show off the unique feature of this game. I'm pretty sure ordinary people can do that too. So Athena's special power is psychology. Interesting. Not as mundane made awesome-ish as Edgeworth's special power being logic. And still everyone else acts like it's magic. Holographic thingamabog reminds me of a line from Investigations 2 that you'll be seeing a little bit later. I think there was a sudden frame drop back there, but things look fine now. Oh, this looks very different in 3D. Okay. Yeah, wow, you really see this whole... See, the lines are sort of... The swirly stuff is moving towards you, and it really feels like you're sort of diving into someone's mind here. Again, 2D footage does not do this justice. Play this demo in 3D, seriously. Witnesses have some happy memories. Some angry memories. Some sad memories. And some surprised memories. Although the sad apparently is also scared, so yeah. Okay, I'm predicting this is going to look really good in 3D, so let's just wait a moment. Okay, that's pretty cool. Apparently she feels absolutely no emotions at this point. Well, surprise at the bomb going off, there's nothing wrong with that. What's wrong with this picture? Yes, the power of just studying psychology. Yeah. If you were not looking closely, you should have noticed this one too. It's pretty obvious. So she's apparently happy about rubble almost crushing her. So now we have to look for contradictions in emotions as well as with the evidence. Okay, I've actually tried this for myself yet, but this kind of forces you to do this. Oh, and the pinpoint button is actually a little icon of Athena's necklace thing, so that's actually interesting. And the happy marker is the only one that's highlighted. And yes, Phoenix gets a new catchphrase for this game. You see, previously, I believe Phoenix was the only lawyer in the series who didn't have at least one unique thing that he said. Apollo had... Oh, wait, as well as Mia. Okay, so Mia are two. But anyway, Apollo had Gotcha, and Edgeworth had Eureka. So it was kind of surprising that Phoenix didn't have anything else. But then again, I'm pretty sure that the other playable lawyers in this game will also have got it. I think Apollo uses Gotcha for emotions as well as perceiving. But anyway... Oh, I just noticed her eyebrows just went up slightly there with that smile. I guess that's like... Oh, okay, yeah, her sprite is slightly different there. She does seem happier. So apparently the thing that injured Apollo was actually not standing in close proximity to a bomb that just exploded, but rather jumping in front of rubble to save someone. So yeah, getting added statements to the testimony. But in this case, we're doing a twist on it, and apparently she's now remembered more people in the courtroom. There's an obvious joke on that line, I'm not going to say it. Okay, still surprised. Still nothing. Whoa, massive happy reaction there, wow. But we have something a bit weird. Oh, and by the way, yes, this particular bit is, even when I was playing the Japanese version, is going to make some of you think shipping. If you're thinking that, I'm not going to say anything. Play the final game. You know, at this point, when I was playing the Japanese version, I was just thinking, you know, maybe she was just slightly sad that Apollo was getting injured on her behalf. Maybe it's just that. You would be pretty normally, you know, a bit sad if someone else got seriously injured. I mean, you know, you'd be happy they helped you, but you would feel a bit sad for them as well. Okay. I will say that as much as I think this is a pretty good localization on the original Japanese name of this thing, it is a very, very unfortunate name for reasons that I won't mention. It lends itself to fairly obvious jokes. Oh, okay. At least it's better than the Blue Badger series. Oh, God, that Proto Badger. Ugh. Oh, losing a stuffed animal. You know, my sister lost a stuffed Pikachu on a train once. She was very upset, so I do know how this feels. So apparently the name here refers to false accusations, I believe. Why, yes, yes it does. Have you noticed just why this is so important? Oh yes, point a finger into the screen in 3D, that is awesome. Do you ever follow anything? Fortunately, this is only like a 10% penalty. But anyway, it's kind of obvious because, well, only one of these pieces of evidence was specified by the prosecution as decisive.
Take that!
Oh yeah, cornered theme for the first time in the game. I'll just let this play for a bit. Oh, Athena's profile did get updated in the court record, by the way. It says she's a wizard in analytical psychology. Okay. Annoying that the game doesn't actually tell you when a profile gets updated. Sometimes it's very hard to find the updates, but anyway. Oh, by the way, sorry for the mood clash, but Ted Donate's profile's in here. Age 42. A police bomb specialist. He was in charge of handling the bomb that exploded in the courtroom. Meanwhile, back to awesome cornered theme. This is interesting in that what you're proving here is you're proving the defendant's innocence through proving their innocence rather than proving someone else guilty, which is actually kind of interesting because this usually doesn't happen. Of course, naturally, this is going to end in you finding out Ted Donate and exposing him for the crazy bomber that he really is, presumably. That's probably not going to be in the final, but we have a 3D close-up of Phoenix's face. And end demo. But first, we have an awesome montage. You're going to want to pause this video multiple times to find out some details here.
Silence! Objection!
And you probably caught a brief glimpse of Edgeworth again, but let's just briefly go over what else was in that rapid-fire montage. So let's see. We know that the, I forgot exactly what he does. I want to say beauty parlor owner because his Japanese name means beauty parlor, but the extremely effeminate-looking man from Case 2, it's been revealed that his surname is Lebel. We don't know his first name though, so speculate away. Speaking of which, we also actually got a brief glimpse of a character in Case 3, and we've revealed their last name too, but only for about a split second. So, the student in the blue jacket, their surname is O'Connor, I believe. And I think we know that the one in the red jacket's surname is Newman, but... or at least I think so. Just from what I've looked at. So there was actually a bit of information revealed there. And of course, main thing is, we get to hear what Simon Blackwell's translated catchphrase is, and what it sounds like voice, and it sounds pretty cool, except I'm still not sure who he's voiced by, or if he actually does have a proper voice actor, because he won't unless he actually appears in animated cutscenes. But anyway, his Japanese catchphrase was Damari na, which basically means the same thing. Some people translated it as shut it, but I think the more formal silence makes more sense. So anyway, I guess that's all, and now it should be about time for me to attempt to download Pokemon. So, if you watch this, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.